Right. I want to thank Dave Craig from the Young Engineers and Science Club Scotland for coming and speaking tonight. Dave has been very long-suffering, putting up with me and the various mad things that I come up with. But we really wanted to do an energy challenge with the schools to try and kind of reach out to the next generation of renewable energy activists in Orkney. And so last year, Dave ran the Blythe Challenge, which was to design a wind turbine, and then this year we've got the Solar Challenge, and it's been a collaboration between OREF and YESC and also the Orkney International Science Festival. So it's been promoted through the schools programme at the Science Festival, and Dave has been promoting it and going into schools and is now going to tell us all about it. Thank you, Dave.
So I'm retired, but having retired and having been a science teacher a long time ago, I wanted to do something with schools and science and engineering. And you can't really do that on your own. You've got to do it with somebody. It's like writing an academic paper yourself. Nobody reads it unless you come from a university. Then it's not worth reading. So I work for the Young Engineers and Science Clubs, and that's an organisation that extends over the whole of Scotland. As part of that, I started doing something in Orkney every year, and I did that because I've got a house in Orkney, and I was quite interested in perhaps moving here and becoming part of the community. Anyway, I met Becky, and she was running a school competition for the science festival called the Blythe Challenge, and I thought, oh, it's my patch really. But it ran, and I thought, oh, I think I could contribute a bit more to this. So the next year we created the 2022 challenge, and this was done in close association with OREF, and this was Bill Graham's idea of a picture which I stole, the Blythe Challenge. So the idea was we would get all the schools in Orkney to build a wind turbine. Simple enough. And the concept that we have in the Young Engineers is you don't tell children what to do, you get them to do it. So you give them some toys, some enabling apparatus, and then you let them get on with it. So in this case, first of all, this was an important part of the pack, and this was a sort of bribe for the teachers, because what we imagine as an engineering challenge is something that small groups of children can do. But what teachers need as well is something they can do with the whole class. So this was the lead-in, what you can do with your whole class. And it was just something everybody could get the sheet themselves, set up, and they could make themselves a wind turbine. And so we gave the schools the pencil, and we gave the schools the little plastic hammer bead and a pin and the sheet of card. And I think every school that got it used these. So you see that's really popular, even though it's very simple. And it does involve quite a lot of engineering. It's interesting watching this to see that the kids don't realize that you have to twist the blades. So you have to think, why does a wind turbine turn in the first place? It's not good enough just to say, well, the wind makes it turn. There is more to it than that. You have to understand the wind. So by doing this, you have to think about it yourself. So the rest of the kit, this was the interesting bit, I think, for the engineers amongst us. To get a wind turbine that you can build successfully as a child, first of all, everybody got this this motor, so it was a level playing field because everybody was using the same basic motor generator. And if you think, because I'm an engineer, I ought to understand that a motor and a generator is the same thing. Well, the only real way of knowing is buy one and try it. So this one definitely works both ways. So it's sold as a motor, but it's used here as a generator. Big challenge for children, how do you connect the wires on the back? So we did give them solder, just to say, well, you know, have a go at soldering. I don't think anybody did solder the leads on the back. So no doubt they all learnt how frustrating it is when your lead fall off. Right now, so you've got this round thing, and you start to devise a way of holding it. And having done that myself, it's actually quite difficult. So a terry clip's the answer. So in the kit, you get a terry clip. And the other sort of piece of what a teacher would call scaffolding to help children was this gear wheel there, which is just a handy device which pushes onto the spindle, so you can then make your own blades. So where the fun comes in is making your own blades, and big ones and small ones and all the rest of it. But with the Blythe Challenge for 2022. And that was the kit we sent out. So there's the key parts of it that I've been mentioning it. Like any good electronics project, when you're doing this, you need to start with the box. That's the most important part of any project, is the box, because it's posted, and the postal service are very picky about whether it's 1 centimeter bigger this way or that way. So start with the box first. And you see there's not just one motor in there, there's a handful, because you want to give people, as I learned as an engineer, you want to give people a lot of materials when they're doing development. Don't skimp on the materials, because it's all in the labor. Just the same here for children. Make sure they've got enough material so they're not limited by not having enough. So that's what the kit cost for Orkney in 2022, and I got that money from Merriman, and in past years I've got money from Solo Energy and from Stephen Patterson. So it was really good when I saw the grant scheme, and I thought, yes, I can relax a wee bit. Maybe there's another opportunity here. So £526. I knew how much it was going to cost roughly for this sort of thing, and that's what I asked for. But OREF said, no, have £1,000. So I did manage to spend £1,000. So thank you very much for that. I was rummaging through to see what schools did it in 2022, and the only thing I could find was a thing of, I was saying to Becky, saying, chase these schools up, they haven't entered yet. So that's a list of people at a particular time towards the end of the year who hadn't actually entered. So based on what we normally do, the young engineers normally do in a place like Edinburgh, you might expect 5% of schools to be interested. So it's quite a triumph to get 75% of schools to take part. That's very different, of course, from actually entering and writing everything down. Here's some of the results we got last year. This is people who actually not only entered, but not only took the kit, but actually did something with it and reported on it. So this is Westry. You see they've got a 3D printer, which I think they were quite delighted to find ways of doing it. And you see that's quite a sophisticated device that they've come up with. It went that way as well as being twirly. So how they designed that, I couldn't imagine, but look, it worked. This is the sort of thing you get from primary. And don't think that because that's more sophisticated, that there's less effort here. Just writing down, you can see that this is written by a child. This wasn't a teacher that wrote this down. So this is what they were doing to make their own wind turbines. And That's Stronsay. And this is Evie. And that's it. That was it. We only got 3 entries, but don't tell the schools that. Because the prize, so you win a prize for being the best. And if you're the only entry, well, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. You see that Evie were reusing this. The paper toy, they were reusing that for the blades of their turbine. Right, and then we get the fun of going and presenting things, and everybody gets excited because they get money, naturally. But of course, that's just the people who win the prize. The real influence is all the other children who took part and maybe never even reported that they had taken part. So the prize winners are the tip of the iceberg. So now this is the one that you've paid for completely. You did the prizes last year. This has been paid for by OREF, and this is the 2023 challenge. And that's my picture. I'm very proud of that. It wasn't quite as good as OS. So it was an idea I wanted to do the year before, but Becky wouldn't let me because she said, no, it's got to be wind turbines. And that is that I had always fancied doing this in my own garden up in Stennis, having ground-mounted panels because I didn't want to ruin the stone roof. And I was reading in PV magazine about bifacial panels, and I thought, oh, that would be cool. I fancy those. And so I asked the suppliers if they could give me and install a bifacial panel, and they all said, what's that then? Oh, no, we don't do that sort of stuff. So I thought, well, okay, let's have a competition about it, and let's get the children to do it. So the idea of a bifacial panel, if you don't know, is that instead of having a solar panel, which is shiny and black at the front and a blank space at the back, you say it's made of glass, so why don't we make the glass clear at the back so the sun can come in the back as well? And if you're in a place like Orkney, where the sun goes right round and summertime comes round the back of you, then for a ground-mounted panel, that sounds as if it might really be quite a good idea. So the challenge for this year for the children is not to make a wind turbine at work, not to make a solar panel at work, but to compare bifacial with a normal panel and write a report about it. So you get the prize, you get the money for writing a good report. So we'll see if anybody does that. How do you give kids a bifacial panel? Well, you can't buy little toy bifacial panels, so you cheat here. You make your own bifacial panel by mounting 2 back to back, and that's the bifacial panel, and that's the single panel. And this one you face south to face the sun at zenith, and this one you normally face it east-west, so that when you're having your breakfast, the sun's coming this side, and when you get the tea ready, the sun's coming that side, so you get it opposite just at the time that you want it. So they say, but I've never done it. Maybe we'll find out from the kids if it actually works. Well, maybe one of you would like to take a spare kit and go and actually try it for real in your garden and try and do it. So if you're going to have a bifacial panel, you've got to separate the 2 units. So you have to have diodes. So the phrase that people use is increasing people's science capital by exposing children to picking something up and being told that is a diode, and not understanding what a diode is, but I've held something called a diode and I put it in the circuit, and this is a resistor. So they get to know the names of a few components, and then maybe later on when somebody suggests they might become an engineer, they'll say, oh, I know about that. I know, I've heard that word. So there was the grant, and this is how it's got spent. And I've still got a wee bit of money to spend, and don't worry, I'll definitely manage to spend it. You see, cottage is quite a bit of the expenditure. You send one kit to each school that asks. You have to ask. You don't just send people the kit. People have to ask for it. Otherwise, it just ends up gathering dust on the floor. This year, what's happened? We've got again more than just about half the schools taken part. But some schools, Kirkwall Grammar School, got really interested in the computer programming part of this. So they've been pestering me for as many kits as they can get out of me. And I've got a couple left I hope to get rid of tomorrow at a school event that young engineers are running called a Celebration of Engineering in Kirkwall. And Westray are coming, and last year they came and took away two of the Blythe kits. So I have high hopes we'll get rid of another two. I can't show you the results for this year's because it hasn't happened yet. So what I can do is go back to the thing that I ran a long time ago, which is I reuse the ideas, just like in engineering, you reuse your ideas and build on that. So there's no shame in reusing an idea. So this was in 2000 and I can't see, was it 17? I think it's 2017. This was a very similar project, and what you had to do at this time was you had to compare a steerable panel with a fixed panel. So on that picture there, you see there's one panel on the right of the picture which is facing due south. And the other panel is the one which is steered and is reoriented every hour as you take a reading throughout the day. And you have to start, in order to do that, you've got to know where south is, so you've got the fun of finding out where south is. Does that mean I'm finished, the fact that so I've skipped on? Yeah. Okay, yes. I'll go back a wee bit, yes. Okay, yes. Okay, yes. Right. So if I go, oh, no. Okay, I'll just talk if you like. I don't know if you can recover it. Yes, yes, okay. Yes, I'm going to talk about the results that we got in 2017. And what I think was quite stunning is to look at. What you had to do was compare two panels throughout the day and see which panel gave more altitude than the other one, so as you could compare a steerable panel with a fixed one. So you had to have two identical setups, take two readings, write them down, go away, have a cup of tea, come back an hour later and do the same thing again. Oh, this looks promising. I will move forward now. Okay, all right. So that's the kids in ED doing it. You see, you have to write down with a pencil. You have to write your numbers. Probably not a good idea to get your hair in the way of the sun, but it's okay. Right, now this is the one I wanted to talk about. So what you do is, whatever time of day you manage to take a reading, doesn't matter when it is, as long as you've got readings evenly spaced throughout the day, you're going to get a comparison over a 24-hour cycle. And so you get two readings every time you manage to take a reading. Now, what amazes me is that somebody must have got up at 3 o'clock to do it. And somebody else was up at 9 o'clock at night to do that. Yeah. So I'm sure it wasn't all kids that. So I think you've got a community there getting involved. And isn't that fun? Well, I was really pleased. I thought, oh, yes, this gladdens my heart. So it would be good if anybody's got some ideas of what we might do next year. How are we doing for time? Okay, yeah, okay. Two more slides. This year, we've got an extension for secondary children to do a bit of programming. As you probably know, there's a great emphasis on introducing digital technology, whatever digital technologies are, into schools, and doing a bit of programming or coding, they call it. And because I used to do this at work, this sort of thing, I get really annoyed with the idea that software is all about computer games. That's all you do with software. But you do something, and then the software is how you do it. It's not the thing that you do. So I'm very keen to give kids something where they can use software in order to achieve something. And what better idea than avoiding getting up at 3 in the morning? So all schools have got this little miniature computer. It's called a microbit, and you can program it. The things you can program it to do is to record readings and store them in a small memory on that. And you have to write the program yourself to make it to do it. This is the sort of way that you might write a program. And you move these blocks around like Lego, and they click together. And you then run the program, and obviously it goes wrong, but you can see why it goes wrong if you've got a bit of nous, and you can push the blocks around and get them in the right order. And so that I think is quite an interesting extension. It's caught on very much with Kirkwall Grammar School. They're really excited about this, and I think they've done some quite advanced stuff, which I might see tomorrow. So there we are. So yes, and I'm open to any ideas of what we might do next year. I know this year's not finished yet, but it takes time to get things together, and you can't just have an idea. You've got to get the idea and then try it out and make sure it works before you can bring it to a school. So if anybody does have any ideas, that'd be good.
We've got no ideas, because an idea did come up in the OREF board meeting the other week. So I don't know if we've got around to yet. What?
Sorry, a few questions afterward. What's the voltage on the cell?
Where's the using?
It's about it says 3 volts, but you get a bit more than 3 volts.
Right.
Yeah. So and you have to put it, yes, and that's why you have to have a load resistor, because otherwise you always get 3 volts, no matter how much light there is. Yes. So they're always told to use a load resistor, which is another 2 words that, you know, it's good for them to be thinking about that. Yeah. Quite. You obviously understand this, that it's harder than it looks to say, here's a solar panel, go and take some readings.
Mm-hmm.
Like any of these projects, you've got to do it yourself, and you've got to do it a few times yourself to see what stops it working. So, for example, if you get the scale wrong, you find that when the sun comes up, the output of the solar panel goes up and then it stops like this, and then it comes down. So most of the day it's just absolutely flat because it's saturated.
The other question I had,
Mm-hmm.
could you go back to the second to last? Sorry, could you go back to the second to last drawing?
Yep.
The one that shows the voltmeter put.
I'll let him try and find them. Yeah.
Not the voltmeter, sorry, the little computer connected.
Yes.
On one of them, you've connected to the top side of the resistor, so you're measuring the power across the resistor. On the other one, you're connected to the other side of the diode.
It's supposed to be
There,
okay,
that
right,
one.
that's wrong. Yes, yes. It should be. They should both be measuring across the load resistor. Yes, that's a mistake.
Which will give you the power that's being dissipated in the resistor.
So what you're comparing is, this is the single one. So you're looking at the voltage across the load resistor. And this is the double one. And that you should be going to the middle. You're right, yes. I wonder if I put that in. I'll have to check that in the brief.
Right. So the next question follows up on that.
Yeah.
Why are you recording, or why are you saying that there's plus X% voltage extra? Because what really matters is how much extra power you've got, and the power is not related to the voltage directly. It's V squared over R.
Well, okay. I think you're probably getting a bit too sophisticated for a child's project, right? And certainly wouldn't want children to get into doing V squared over R at primary school, because then they'll get confused and think science and engineering is difficult. But whatever you do, if you compare like with like, so if you compare the voltage across the resistor with a double panel compared with the single panel, if one's bigger than the other, that's the answer. And if you record that at different hours of the day and then add it all up, you'll see if one's more than the other.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but you're not giving a true reflection of how much extra energy they're getting from.
That's why I would like you to take a kit away and do it properly.
Oh, don't, no, don't do that. You will get a report, but it might take a while to read. Yeah, yeah, it's a fair point, Martin.
You're not teaching them the very fundamental concept of energy.
You see, I don't actually say this is what you have to do. What I say is you do it your way and write a report. Right? But for a primary teacher, you've got to give them a bit of a hint about that and say, you know, make sure you use numbers like watts and volts, and you sort of give them the scaffolding so they've got some sort of sense about it and they're not totally screwed up. Yeah.
So just one of the other ideas that came up at the OREF meeting the other day, that came from Gareth actually, was thinking about, you've done some bits and pieces about the generation of energy, but the conservation of energy could be an interesting project.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about keeping a small quantity of ice or something, or a container at a particular temperature for a particular period of time. So an insulated box of some description with digital thermometer, once again, the logging process could be there, and showing the rate of thermal decay that you get from something, and that felt that
Yeah,
might
it's
be
a bit like a sort of thermal store.
Yeah,
right?
exactly that.
Aren't they?
yeah. So how long would it last?
Yeah.
You work better, you put sugar in it, you know, or salt, or you know, there's a bunch of things you could do,
Yeah.
and that would cover the other part of not just the making of energy, but also the storage.
Yes,
So I just thought,
sounds quite interesting.
Yeah.
I'll need to think about the scaling of it.
Yes.
Something which lasts a whole day for a building is sort of feasible, but to make something a child size, it'll last a whole day. But yeah.
but yes. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's just a thought.
Scale
That
it, yes,
was
right.
might be something.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
I remember as a kid at school. I remember a kid at school had a really simple wide diagram, basically a motor connected to a small light bulb, and the light bulb was like really tiny, and you twisted the motor with your fingers and the light bulb lit up. And for me, that just like really excited me to think it's a motor in reverse. And I still envisage that when I'm getting regen in my EV. It's like light bulb moment I did as a kid. So I just think, because you can't see electricity, you know, you might measure it on a piece of kit, but to actually, you know, twist a motor and see a light bulb glow and then die again, for me, it just connected up the dot to what renewables, be it wind or solar, can actually physically do.
Yes. I agree with you. And with the Blythe challenge, the previous year, they did get an LED with it, and some of them did manage to get the LED to light up. I always say, try it both ways. Don't try and work out the right way, because you'll get it wrong. It's impossible. Just try it both ways, and one way it will light up if you're lucky. And yes, quite a few of them were able to get that. The bind having LEDs nowadays, because you have to keep swapping them. But all lights are LEDs, so that's the way life is at the moment. But what I really like about that too is it's fairly easy to get to connect a solar panel to an LED, and you just hold it out the window, and the LED lights up, and you think, wow, that's fantastic! Look at that. And then you say to the kids, what could you use that for? And they say, well, we could light up our house using this. And it's a great idea and fantastic. Say, then you say, wait a minute, it only lights up when the sun's out. So you've just invented a way of lighting up your house when it's sunny. So I think it's something else that you've missed. But yeah, anyway.
So. No, it's almost a hybrid of what you've already got, and like what Jonathan suggested, is you've got a 3-volt cell there. In every car, really, the multiples of lithium batteries.
Yes.
Which are very, I think they run at about 3 volts.
Yeah.
Something like.
Well,
So why not connect these into small batteries,
yes.
and then, like Jonathan says, put those onto a little LED to see how long that LED stays lit for.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's a very basic, storage
See, you
solution.
could maybe get that to work using a supercapacitor rather than a battery.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
Susan?
So that's a storage idea again.
Yep.
So, yeah. What's the idea? Is anybody writing this down?
Yeah.
Or is it recorded?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. That's it. Fine. Yes.
You hope. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this or not really, but do you have a sense of the gender balance with the take-up of these? Have we got the girls coming through?
Well, in Orkney, yes, because
Good.
the schools in the islands, that's the whole school that has to do it.
That's great. No, good. I know it seems a
Yes.
strange question, but there comes a point
Yeah.
where suddenly, oh, it's too hard, Can I just tell you a little story? In my previous incarnation, before we came to Orkney, the church I was involved in, we put a huge solar array on the church, and the local school were learning, and I taught them what photovoltaic meant. And I then went with these kids. The teacher said they needed an extra adult. They were going to a power station. Sometime later, but off I went with them. And there were about 60 of these. It was a whole lot of P4s and 5s had gone to this power station. And of course, some of them saw these engineers walking around in their boiler suits and their helmets. And they were saying, that's so cool. And one little boy and a girl both said to me, when I grow up, I want to be one of them, rather than being a footballer or an actor or a whatever. And I think that was probably one of the best moments ever. I just thought, yes, just because of the hands-on and the experience and the doing of it, they just taken that learning and did something with it. So thank you for that. I think it's quite inspirational.
Yeah, and that's why
Thank
it's
you.
important for the local community, for OREF, for example, to be part of this, so that schools and children and so on can see this is something that real people do, the people that they know and understand. Absolutely.
And with that, the kettle kicked in. I just wondered if you had any idea about why you didn't get take up from the other schools. In other words, you said you got 3 reports back the last time, and there were 15, or I can't remember the number, 15 or 17 or so kits went out. And do you know whether others did do things and then didn't write it up, or just never opened the box, or?
I think they all opened the box. They all did something with it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, for example, this was 100% used.
Yeah.
And I think in the vast majority of cases, yes, the kits were used.
Okay.
Not necessarily the way we expected them to be used, or for the purposes we expected them to be used. But I'm not surprised at what you might call the low reporting number. Try any engineers, when the electrician's finished and you say, you'll send in your report, won't you? Does he actually get round to doing it? Well, he's getting paid for it. But it is hard to get people to actually write stuff down. And it involves teachers' time. And as I said, I talked to you about this last year, about working with schools. You've got to realize that teachers have got no money to spend and they've got no time to do anything. So if the teacher has to collect in something from the kids and make sense of it and then hand it in, that's teacher's time.
Yeah.
So that's quite an overhead.
I just wondered whether there was scope to put a form in with things, which is how far through these steps did you get? Did you open the box? Did you use the stuff? Did you find the pencils really useful?
Yes.
Or whatever it was,
Yes,
just for improvement. That's all.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, you're a real corporate sponsor, you see. Yes. Who is your customer? Whose number said that? Is it the children? Is it the teachers? Is it Scotland?
Yeah.
Is it the people who are giving you the money? So yes, I mean, beware of going back to the kids and berating them because they haven't told OREF what they did with their money.
No,
You want to say that was a fantastic job, whatever you did with it.
don't worry. It's
Yeah,
not about
I know,
berating.
I'm with you.
Obviously, it's about seeing
Yeah.
where the score is. But I think it's really
Yeah,
inspirational. But,
What would help, I think, though, is parents being interested.
yeah.
So spread the word
Yeah.
to anybody that's got kids at school and such like. If they're involved in this sort of thing, get the parents involved in helping the kids, and then that takes the burden off the teachers, and it gives that extra push to get the stuff handed in.
No, good idea. Good.
Right.
Sydney?
Yes, I thought I had a window. That's the kind of my whole words, but somebody.
Give you a second. Wait for the mic to come for the guys who are online. Just
Yeah, somebody gave me I guess, a small one, about 6 inches high, with a solar panel on the top. Just with a postage size solar panel, a postage stamp size, and it sits in the window, and it's been running away there on sunny days for about 10 years.
there you go.
And it what does it do? It turns something?
Just a windmill. It's just a
Why does-
it's just a copy of a windmill.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. All right.
Yeah.
So you use solar power to turn a windmill.
Yeah. I mean, that could be interesting in a school.
Yeah.
And another thing is that
Yeah.
maybe not many folk have no coal fires, but you get this fence, you sit on the top, and the heat sets the fan going.
Yes. Oh, cool. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Good. Any more on that?
The only thing I was going to come in to say, we just got to some point about girls, but actually the running team in Westview were all girls, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. That's right. And we've
Yes,
got the
too.
picture. I was going to try and find the picture of the Evie, and you'll see that was pretty well gender balanced. Yeah.
I just want to offer a small another piece of encouragement. I had one of those moments, Susan, you had with kids. Well, two actually. One was I was asked to judge the Saltire Prize, which was a thing we've done with schools, which was looking to get schools all around Scotland to design machines, and they did wave machines one year and tidal machines another year, and bits and pieces. Anyway, they had the schools got the kit and they made stuff and they bobbed them around in the pond or the swimming pool or whatever, and then the best ones were then taken to Glasgow, the Science Centre. And there was a big event and these different competitions were all being judged. And I was asked to be one of the judges. And there were three of us on the judging panel. And we had to go along to these groups of kids. And there were like 3 at sort of primary school and 3 at sort of senior school and asked them about their project. And my bit was one of the first questions. And I vividly remember going to this group and there were some kids from Shetland. And they were that high. You know, I'm not calibrated with kids, how old that is, but they were that high. And there was this little team, and they were sort of told their story about what they'd done and how it had worked. They said, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, okay. So why do you think wave energy is important? This kid looked at me and went, because we've got lots of ways. We can't keep burning fossil fuels. We need the energy. Brilliant. I'm going to get elected one day, I'm telling you. I felt that high. That'd be brilliant. So, anyway, right. Look, thank you very much indeed for that, Dave. Really good work. And somebody pointed out to me recently, you know, if we are going to be doing all this big renewable stuff all around Scotland, the people are probably going to be flicking the breakers on making that stuff work. Probably the kids that you're talking to in school at the moment. Yeah, this is a multi-year activity that we've got to get going and help people really want to make this work. So, all power to your elbow. Glad OREF was able to help. I thank to the European Union for the Responsible Island Prize, which has given us the money, which is why we can do this sort of stuff. And it was that in itself was a prize in recognising the effort that Orkney as a whole has put in trying to make renewables happen. So you know, it's about making the whole thing go around. So more power to your elbow. If we haven't got anything else on now, one small piece of OREF business, I was going to say, we'll be highlighting that there's a consultation that's open, that Scottish Government has just opened, and we're going to be asking for input on it. And that is, the consultation is about sorry, I got quite emotional about that story, so I'll get this tear out of my eye. It's really annoying me, so there we go. about changes to the permitted development rights, which are basically the rights that people have got to put various things on buildings. And Scottish Government are in the process of relaxing those permitted development rights for enabling solar panels to be put on, wind turbines, a whole bunch of bits and pieces. So it's actually, I read it, went, where's the catch? And I couldn't find one. So anyway, it's really positive. But so the secret is, I think we need to make comment back about it. So if you keep your eyes open, we really appreciate people's input from installers or people who've had the pain of putting stuff on their roofs and all the rest of it. There's some really good pieces in it. So I'm very encouraged about that. So watch this space. We'll put something out about it. I think the next meeting, Francis, is that the one that Gareth was going to be doing, which was about the value of energy investment? I think that it was. Yeah. Okay, fine. So the plan is that as part of that Orkney Energy Conference that Robert alluded to earlier, there was a very good presentation by Gareth which showed that, frankly, we can do net zero with the money we're about to spend on fuel. That's what it comes down to. So, and it's a really powerful piece of demonstration of how it will work. So we've suggested giving that presentation to OREF. So that's probably going to be the next meeting that's going to be coming up. 4th of July. I think the 4th of July, that's right. So anyway, the Energy Independence Day. There we go. Right. I'd like to say thank you very much indeed for coming along tonight. Thanks for the vote of confidence you've shown in people who are going to be elected and running the board for the next year. Once again, please, we do want ideas about how to make these meetings work, and indeed the topics that you want to cover. So Hang's idea on softwares and Tina is a really good idea, and we're open to other things as well. So please do suggest changes and chops and alterations that we can make to the programme. So like I say, thank you very much indeed for coming along. The urn clearly is still here, so that was making its presence felt a few minutes ago, so don't dash off. And if you want to grab a cup of coffee, please do. My thanks again to Mike for all of the technical jiggery-pokery. And with that, I'll draw the meeting to a close. Thanks for indeed, everybody.